Hey everybody, Steve Searles, Stephen D, however you want to call me, back again. Today's topic, why are we hearing about climate change just a little bit in the media? I was on the car today, driving in the car, NPR was on. Usually I turn on NPR and they're talking about something about Russiagate 9 times out of 10. But today, on that show called 1A, which replaced Diane Ream's show, they actually were talking about massive heat waves around the world. And I'm going to myself, what the F is going on? This isn't the NPR I know. It's not the NPR that's has corporate sponsors Exxon and the Coke Industries. So why are they talking about heat waves and wildfires and even allowing people to, even reading the tweets of people who say climate change isn't a hoax, even though they didn't really themselves talk much about it, about climate change being the reason for these extreme heat waves. And I'm talking heat waves, all over the world. Japan just set an all-time record, 106 degrees, place outside Tokyo, and you may not think that's bad, but Tokyo in the summer is like 95% humidity. 106 degrees with that kind of humidity, and people not prepared for it is they mentioned 86 heat-related deaths already from that heat wave. We've seen temperatures over 120s in northern Africa. We've got over 90 degrees Fahrenheit in Scandinavia, where there's forest fires, wildfires in Sweden. But you know why NPR was talking about it? Yosemite National Park. Yosemite National, Monument. They're having to close the park to the most famous part of the park, Yosemite Valley, because of this massive forest fire that's going on that they don't have under control. So that's what it takes to get the attention of our media to cover something that's important. Okay, as opposed to the bullshit that they throw at you every day. Day after day after day. Of course, later I come on and they're talking about, Trump's lawyer taped him, blah, blah, blah. We don't hear anything about Israeli apartheid. We don't hear anything, about, the corruption that we're seeing, in recent corruption that was shown by Congress and the Trump administration, when they doubled down on protecting the identity of donors who give dark money. They give money to these quote charitable organizations, which then hide their identities, and the charitable organizations then funnel money to PACs, political action committees, who then funnel the money to candidates, and we never know who's really, paying off who. All we know is that somebody with a lot of bucks, is hiding their identity because they don't want you to know, who they're buying. So that's why it's shocking to me today that, Koch brothers and Exxon are big corporate sponsors of NPR, and I guess, even they couldn't stop them from doing a story about having to shut down Yosemite Park. I guess, the smoke was so bad and the fire was so bad and people were so pissed off that they couldn't go on their vacation to Yosemite National Park this summer that NPR was forced to cover it. So what does that tell you about what kind of media we have? Okay? It tells you we have shitty media. It tells you we have media that, would rather pump you full of information from anonymous sources in the CIA or the NSA or whatever than that would rather gloss over Israel's apartheid decision recently, that refuses to even hardly mention the genocide that's being committed in Yemen, in which we're a participant, the United States, and has been a participant, not only under the Trump administration but the Obama administration. All this stuff they won't talk about. Okay? It's ridiculous. So today's word is don't fall for the bullshit. Or I should say maybe today's hashtag, don't fall for their bullshit. All right? There's a lot of crap going on in the world that our media won't tell you about. I talk to a lot of young people because I go places where they're working, and I'll tell them things, and they say, I didn't know that. And I'll ask them if they're registered to vote. A lot of them aren't, because they don't believe their government works for them or will ever work for them. And they don't watch the news. Because they gave up thinking that there was truth on the news. They know it's just entertainment at this point. It's entertainment for old people. Really, that's all the news is these days. Entertainment for old people who have enough money that they can afford to worry about, trivial shit that in the big grand scheme of things means nothing. I'll give you a good example. We're still like all over, the bullshit about Russiagate. Well, you know what? Today, something important actually happened in court. There's a group that was suing, Trump, and based on his receipt of his profits, his business profits that he's earned since from government contracts while he's in office. Now that is actually something you can argue easily is an impeachable offense. It's literally right there in the Constitution, something called the emoluments clause. How many people even heard about that? We have this constant corruption, okay? But nobody's been talking about let's get rid of Trump because he's fucking corrupt. Because his businesses, occasionally they mention it, but no. Well, they focus totally on this whole bullshit Russia thing. Why? Well, getting rid of Trump, impeaching him for his corruption, the point is that kind of everybody's dirty in politics. They really don't want to focus too much on that. The other politicians. So they'd rather talk about collusion and Russia and treason and, despite the fact that we have been presented with no evidence whatsoever that Trump colluded with anybody or that Russia alleged interference had any impact on the outcome of the election anywhere. But we have lots of evidence that his companies and his businesses have profited from contracts with the government, which is a direct violation of the Constitution Emoluments Clause, which is an impeachable offense. Who's talking that up? Nobody. Why? You want to know why? Because they all do it. Clintons did it. My governor, Andrew Cuomo, is up to his ears in corruption. Just about every day we hear another story about a conviction or indictment about one of his aides. And that's just my state. You could go to Chicago, look at Rahm Emanuel I don't know how to pronounce his name, but you know what I'm talking about. The mayor of Chicago basically running a corrupt system. You can go to state of Michigan, again, corruption all over the place, which is why Flint has not had anything any real help done for them, despite politicians flying in for photo ops every once in a blue moon, when there's a campaign, national campaign going on. No, so they don't want to talk about Trump's corruption so much. They don't want to talk about the big issues that are affecting our lives, like income inequality, like lack of health care that is literally, making us, we literally are, our mortality rate is declining, okay? Declining. It's going down. They don't want to talk about the incredible injustice in our justice system, where people are getting thrown in jail for nonviolent offenses. All these people we incarcerate, majority, disproportionate number of them, are non-white, okay, people of color. All right. Despite the fact that they make up, whites make up 72% of the population, whites don't make up 72% of the prison population. But who talks about that? Nobody. And they even try to slander the Black Lives Matter movement and as a Russian front, just like the Russian puppet, just like they've done to Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein. Anything. They'd rather talk about Russia and cyber war and Pearl Harbor or this, because the reality is they want to distract people from the real suffering that's going on. So don't buy the propaganda, people. Don't buy the propaganda. Don't watch it. Don't listen to it. You remember the old saying, "Trust but verify." Back in Reagan's era, when he was talking about the nuclear arms treaty he was negotiating with Gorbachev. Well, we're way past trust but verify with respect to our corporate political media's environment at the present time. It's don't trust until you verify. Okay? Don't trust, because they're not going to tell you what's going on, what's really going on. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear. And there's lots of people who are very comfortable with the status quo who, okay, yeah, I'll watch MSNBC and I'll get outraged and blah, blah, blah. And they're getting outraged about the wrong things. Because they're not hurting. They're not young people suffering to get by. They're not African American people getting thrown into jail or getting shot and killed by the police. They're not people who use GoFundMe as their health insurer of last resort. Those are the people that are, the audience for MSNBC and Fox News and CNN. So just stop watching those bastards, because all they do is, one, either tell you the most sensationalized story there is to tell and present it in the most sensationalized way they can, or they shovel, they catapult the propaganda, as President Bush referred to it, ironically enough, in one of his rare truthful moments as president. So keep that in mind. Don't buy the bullshit. That's all I got to say today. Take care, everybody. See you when I see you. Signing off.